Out of the Attic, bringing back the days of malt shops and soda pop, only on 91 FM.
You know, things went along, and in 1953, after we recorded Rock This Joint, we started promoting our music locally around the Chester, Pennsylvania area where we lived and the Philadelphia suburbs. We started doing high school assemblies. Well, we would take our band and go and do a show in the high schools. And Bill felt that was a great way of getting the pulse of the record buyers. And the teenagers were the record buyers, and I guess they still are. So we did a show just outside of Chester, Pennsylvania one time, and the kids came out while we were loading the instruments in the car and gathered around, and we were talking to them, and Bill says, "Hey, how'd you guys like our music?" And one kid says, "That's crazy, man, crazy." And Bill took a pen and wrote down "Crazy Man, Crazy" on his hand. And we went, after we got the instruments loaded and said goodbye to all the kids, we went to Bill's apartment, which was just a few miles away, and his wife was making lunch for us, making us a sandwich. And Bill reached over and grabbed the guitar and strummed a note, and he says, "Crazy man, crazy, crazy man, crazy, crazy man, crazy, man, that music's gone." And then I started throwing in lines with him, and we wrote "Crazy Man, Crazy" in his house in about 30 minutes. And he said, "We're going to record that on our next record session." So our next record session was done in New York, and Dave Miller wanted how to set of drums on our recordings, so he brought in one of New York's finest drummers, who was a session drummer, and his name was Billy Gusak. He was playing television shows. He was on Arthur Godfrey and Sid Caesar's Show of Shows and things like that. And he brought him in to do our record session with Crazy Man Crazy. And he came over and introduced himself to me. And he said, "Marshall, you and I are going to go over here in the corner and kind of get acquainted and play a little time together." He said, "I know you play a little bit different bass than the average guy, so I want you to just play what you do, and I will play around you." So I started playing my shuffle beat, like that, and he started filling in with his snare drum, playing a shuffle with his left hand, and an afterbeat on the 2 and 4, which went and it really fit in, and we created a beat that just drove the kids crazy, and a great dance beat. So on Crazy Man Crazy, you'll hear that bass combination and the drums. That this was before we had a saxophone or a drummer in our band. And then a month or so later, because Crazy Man Crazy made some noise in the charts, I think it went up to number 29 in the Billboard charts. And it gave us a little more of a name as recording artists. And in the meantime, Bill Haley and the Saddlemen, right after we recorded Rock This Joint, program director at the local radio station where we were doing a 1-hour radio show every day, he came out and said, "Boy, you guys don't look like Saddlemen to me." He says, "In fact, you don't even sound like Saddlemen." He said, "Why don't you change your name to Bill Haley's Comets?" So Bill thought for a moment. He said, "Hey, what you guys think about that?" And he asked all of us our opinions, and we said, "Yeah, let's go for it. And get out of these cowboy clothes and, dress up like entertainers." So we got out of the cowboy clothes and bought some suits just alike. And we became Bill Haley and the Comets. And it's been that way ever since. And it was, first of all, meant to be Bill Haley's Comets. And then it became Bill Haley and the Comets. And then it became Bill Haley and his Comets. And then pretty soon, the disc jockeys just kind of shortened it to say, "Well, here it is, Bill Haley, rock around the clock." And they just kind of dropped the name Comets off of some of the introductions because the manager just kept pushing Bill Haley. Bill Haley, you're the star, and that's what we're going to push. So that's how that came to pass.
Now, I know you had said that you guys were in a radio station with Alan Freed, and he kind of said that, oh, rock and roll, rock and roll. But where did the actual idea of rock and roll come from?
I am not sure. Some people say that it was from the old race music that dated back, and it was kind of a sexual innuendo. Gonna rock my baby tonight, and rock and roll all night long. And back in the 40s, there were some songs that had those lyrics in them. But it was not called rock and roll. It was just the lyrics from a couple of songs that were going to rock my baby all night long. I'm going to roll my baby all night long. And, it was just kind of an innuendo type of thing. And then when Alan Freed started using it, then it became the style of music. And, then rockabilly came along after that. I guess in the Elvis era, Elvis was about a year or so behind us. We had our hits in 53 and 54 and 55, and Elvis had his first national television show in 1956.
Right, and that was when he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, right?
No.
No?
See, a lot of people think that his first national television show was Ed Sullivan, but it wasn't. I get upset because I wish people would really check their history, because Elvis's first television appearance was in January of 1956, and it was on the Dorsey Brothers television show. And he was introduced by Bill Randall from Cleveland, Ohio, who came out and introduced Elvis to the world. And then Ed Sullivan got on the bandwagon after that. It wasn't, his first television show wasn't Ed Sullivan.
You learn something new every day.
Well, a lot of the facts get twisted because somebody said that. I even saw it on one of the national quiz shows that said, which television show was Elvis Presley's first television appearance? And then they said Ed Sullivan, so-and-so, and so-and-so. And they never did even mention the Dorsey Brothers. They gave the answer as Ed Sullivan. And they said, yes, you're right. And I wrote to the TV station and told them, I said, you ought to get your facts straight. It wasn't Ed Sullivan. It was the Dorsey Brothers TV show in January of 1956. So I don't know if it ever got straightened out, and I never even heard back from the TV station about it. But, things like that happen because somebody will say, well, this happened on that date, then it becomes gospel, and it isn't. But life goes on.
Getting back into you guys a little bit, what was it like to be a pioneer of rock and roll, to be one of the first groups that actually got this off the ground?
It was a job. We really didn't know what we had until I didn't know we had a hit record with Rock Around the Clock until in July of 1955. We were driving on the New York Thruway on our way to Boston to do a television show. Bill had just bought new Cadillacs, he and his partners, and I was driving one of them along with Dick Richards, our former drummer. We were driving. I turned the radio on about 10 o'clock in the morning, and Rock Around the Clock was playing. And it was a new radio kind of with what they call a selectric bar. You just push the bar and it goes automatically to the next station. And I said, well, let me see if it's playing anywhere else. And I pushed the bar again. It goes to another station. Rock Around the Clock was playing there, too. And I said, well, let me see if it's anywhere else. And I pushed the bar again. It went to another station. It was playing there, and it was playing 4 times simultaneously on the dial. And then for the next 5 minutes or so, I kept pushing the button, and I heard the song 12 times. I said, man, this has got to be one of the biggest hits of all times. And it was.
Where did the idea for Rock Around the Clock come from?
Rock Around the Clock was a song written by a friend of Bill's who owned a publishing company, and he also was a promoter of music and a promoter of bands. And he was responsible for getting a contract at Decca Records for Bill Haley and the Comets. Our option at Essex Records, the time had passed on the owner picking up the option to keep us as recording artists for him. And they looked at the contract, and his name was James Myers. He was a co-writer on Rock Around the Clock. And he took the fact that we were free agents to Decca Records, along with our record of Crazy Man Crazy, and he signed Bill Haley and the Comets to Decca Records with a nice advance and a good record deal. And we had our first record session at Decca on April 12th of 1954. And we were late arriving at our record session because we got stuck on a sandbar in the Delaware River just going across from Chester to New Jersey. And we were an hour late getting to New York. And the A&R man, whose name was Milt Gabler, he's the uncle of Billy Crystal, but he was the head of Decca Records. And he gave us a song that he wanted recorded, and it was called 13 Women and Only One Man in Town. And we had never heard of the song. We did not know it. We had to build an arrangement on the song, and it took us 2.5 hours to get that song completed and in the can. So after it was done, he said, okay, we have about 30 minutes left. You guys do that rock thing that you're going to do. He didn't even know what to call it. And we had rehearsed Rock Around the Clock in Bill's basement. I think I mentioned this earlier. The night before the record session. So we all knew the song, and we recorded it, and we had 30 minutes to do it. And we did it in 2 takes, and they put the 2 takes together and came up with a master that was a worldwide hit. James Myers asked Bill as a favor to record Rock This Joint because Bill felt that he owed Jimmy Myers a favor because he got him a good contract at Decca Records. So we had rehearsed it the night before, and we were all ready to do the song, and we did it, and it turned out to be a real good one. But a lot of people didn't know it was the B-side of that session. When the record was released, they released it with big ads in Billboard magazine. Bill Haley and the Comets do 13 Women and Only One Man in Town, backed with Rock Around the Clock. They promoted 13 Women, and it was not a million-selling record. We only sold about 75,000 the first time out of the box. And they went on, and they were disappointed in record sales. But they called us in 2 months later, in June of 1954, and we recorded Shake, Rattle, and Roll, which was a cover of Big Joe Turner's recording of Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And we had to clean up the lyrics because they were a little bit blue. The record company suggested that some of the lyrics be changed. So Bill and one of his friends went out in the hallway and rewrote some of the verses of Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And we recorded that backed with a song called ABC Boogie. And that was a million